Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today, we're not making biscuits, sadly, but we are cooking from Lazarus Lynch's Son of a Southern Chef, and we are going to be making one of my kids' favorite things, salmon. We're going to be making pan-seared salmon with whiskey honey glaze, and this is going to be a really fast recipe. So I've already got my sides cooked and in the oven, just on warm, so that we will be ready to eat as soon as these come off the stove. They should take maybe about 10 minutes to cook, plus a little bit for the sauce. So what I'm gonna be doing right now is putting together that whiskey honey glaze that we're going to cook in the pan after the fish is done. So I'm gonna start with the whiskey. We happen to have some Japanese whiskey. It's not one of my husband's favorites, so he said I could use that. We have a little bit of soy sauce. So I did kind of skew Asian with my sides here, just because. We have some honey. I'm using the same honey that I used for the bourbon glazed broiled salmon that I made from Brown Sugar Kitchen, just because, why not? And we have some fresh squeezed lime juice. Not quite enough. There we go. And all I'm going to do is whisk this together to sort of get the honey and the liquid sort of incorporated. And I'll give it another little whisk before we actually use it. He tells you not to do this until later, but you can do this ahead of time, that's fine. And then the only thing we're gonna add to this when we cook it to make it, thick like a glaze is some thyme, which I've already washed and have ready over here. So that's ready. Now I'm gonna get my fish ready. I have some salmon fillets here, skin on salmon fillets. One of them turned out to be a little bit smaller than the other ones, but that'll be okay. Now, he does call for only 8 to 10 ounces of salmon, then split up into 4 pieces. If I give my kids 2 ounces of salmon, they will rebel. They will decide to eat mine as well. So for my family, it takes about 1.5 pounds to satisfy the desire for salmon fillets, just so you know. So I think that's a little low for the 4 servings that he suggests. Now, maybe we just eat more protein than a lot of people, whatever. I think total here was about 1.6 pounds. So you might get a little bit over 1 pound if you do salmon fillets all this sort of smaller size, which would be fine, honestly. But again, 2 ounces, not gonna satisfy my kids. So I'm just gonna salt and pepper both sides here. I just have some kosher salt. He does not give a measurement for this, which is perfectly fine by me. It's a great thing if you get used to seasoning by feel, which is really possible when you use kosher salt. All right, so I've seasoned that side. Now I'm going to turn them all over and season the skin side. Now the skin side is the first side we're going to be cooking, because this is going to have a crispy skin, which I particularly love to eat when it's a crispy skin. So I want it to be seasoned nicely. Here we go. And pepper. Other than measuring all the stuff that I measured, that's all the prep we need to do for this dish. So I'll meet you at the stove. Okay, so he says to heat your oil on medium-high heat. I have measured out the amount of oil that he says to use for this. He says until it smokes. My pan was already pretty hot. And it's already smoking. So we're ready to put our fish in here. Skin side down. We're supposed to be able to fit all of them in here. don't know that with our size we will be able to fit all of them in here, but we'll see. You don't want to crowd it, but I think I can make it fit, so I'm going to try that. There we go. They are not sticking, which is great. And the amount of oil that he called for was enough, so that's good. So I'm going to get rid of this because I won't be using this again. And he says to gently but firmly push down with a fish spatula to make sure that the skin has full contact. Oh, and we're supposed to reduce our heat to medium. So this metal fish spatula is great. It's really good for a pan that can use it. So not a non-stick pan really, but it's thin and flexible. I highly recommend having one. So now we're just going to cook this for 6 to 8 minutes until the skin is very crispy. Now, it's been about 5 minutes. I think since ours are a little bit bigger, we're going to take a little bit longer on this side. The skin is not sticking, which is great, but it's also not quite as crispy and brown as I would like to see it. So I'm just gonna turn my heat up a little bit again because we have such larger fillets than the recipe calls for, and yeah, I want them to cook, right? So I'm gonna let them go another couple of minutes, I think, at this point, and then check the skin again. Good thing they're not sticking. It's been 7 to 8 minutes, I think, at this point. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn these over, and then they only need to cook about 3 minutes on the other side. I'm gonna turn them so the meat's, the thicker portion is toward the middle, just because that cooks a little bit faster in my experience. There we go. And this is where they might stick a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see if the pan is hot enough. Hopefully they will not. That was bad. There we go. All right, so just a few more minutes now. If you want to cook to temperature, he says 120 to 125 is medium rare. 125 to about 135 is medium. Don't cook it above about 140. Chefs generally do not suggest you cook salmon over that, and we do tend to prefer our salmon on the medium to medium rare side. So and let it go about 3 minutes, at which point you should be able to see the sides be less red, more of the pink color, kind of like the medium one already is, just because more of the heat is being reflected off the other sides. That's my thought about that. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes. I'm going to say this middle one is definitely done. If we want to see just what it looks like, it's got a nice little brown on that side, but yeah. I'm going to go ahead and put it skin side up on my plate that I have just sitting in my microwave, because that's a good place to store things, especially when nobody needs it. And because we like to eat that skin. And they all look done, so I'm going to go ahead and take them all out. That looks good to me. And now I'm going to make the glaze in this pan. So I'm going to wipe it out, wipe all the grease out of it, the oil, because we don't need that. Okay. So on medium-high heat, we're going to cook this for about 3 minutes. Whew. Smells good. So we are just caramelizing the honey and evaporating some of the water off of this and making a beautiful glaze that in the end should coat the back of a spoon. I am going to go ahead and add the thyme here, just so, because it seems to be cooking pretty quickly, and I just want to make sure we get the thyme flavor into our glaze. It smells like thyme now. It smells like thyme and whiskey. You can make this as thick or as thin as you would like. He does suggest that if you want it thinner after you've gotten it to the point where you like it, or where he says to put it, if you want it a little bit thinner, you can add a little bit of water. I think we are pretty much there. We don't want this to get too much darker or too much thicker at this point, which took a lot less time than I think he said, but I'm gonna call it. And that is it for this recipe. That was a pretty quick recipe. You can see that it's nice and it's a nice thick glaze. Oh, I can't wait to eat. We'll let you know what it's like in just a minute. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make pan-seared salmon with whiskey honey glaze from Lazarus Lynch's Son of a Southern Chef. And I will say this was a pretty simple recipe. Salmon cooks up so quickly, and if you have all of the glaze stuff already measured out and ready to go, that actually thickened up very quickly after the salmon was cooked. So that was good. In fact, I think I over-reduced my glaze just a little bit, so I should have thinned it a bit more than I did before I served it. But it was a delicious glaze, and I always enjoy pan-seared salmon. I do think that, I don't know about you, but a 2-ounce piece of salmon would not be enough for me. A 2 to 3 ounce, 2 to 2.5 ounce piece of salmon would not be enough for me for dinner, but we tend to eat a little bit protein heavy. I did enjoy it. The pan searing is really messy, and I would enjoy sort of taking this recipe and modifying it to the broiler method that we used recently for the recipe from Brown Sugar Kitchen. So, that's a thing that I'd love to try out myself, and I'll let you know how that goes. You can follow me over on Instagram. I usually post things like that over there. If I tweak something or try something different, I'll make a little post about it there. So links are always below to my social media. So, yeah, I think everybody enjoyed this. Whole family loves salmon, and they would certainly eat it again. So, and it's very easy. There was nothing difficult about it. So I would definitely make it again, even this way. So if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and come back and watch me make something else.